Why should you care about usability? Have you ever gotten lost on a website or left a site without finding the information you wanted, or struggled to build something using instructions? You never get a second chance to make a first impression, and usability testing can help you find any errors or problems your users may have in successfully using your document or product to serve their needs. This online lecture goes beyond the information provided in the textbook to help you with how to conduct your own usability studies. By watching this information, you will learn how to identify representative users, how to set goals for your usability tests, how to correctly write tasks that your users can accomplish with the product you're testing, and then how to measure and track the usability. At the conclusion of this module, you will accomplish the following learning objectives. Usability is defined as how successfully and satisfactorily a person uses a product, document, or website to complete a task effectively and efficiently. Usability is not just about how useful a product or document is, or even about how easy it is to use. It's about how the user perceives the product or document. And the best test of usability is whether or not users find that a document or product, including websites, can help users use a product or help them reach their goals. I want to share with you a few factors that describe good usability. And we break this down under a term called meals. It includes memorability, efficiency, errors, learnability, and satisfaction. Let's walk through each of these factors for what makes good usability. Memorability. If a user has used the system before, can he or she remember enough to use it effectively the next time? Or does the user have to start over again learning everything? In terms of efficiency, once an experienced user has learned to use the system, how fast can he or she accomplish tasks? Errors considers three factors: how many errors the user makes while using the product, how serious are the errors, and how the users recover from their errors. Learnability. How fast can a user who has never seen the user interface before learn it sufficiently well to accomplish basic tasks? And satisfaction looks at how pleasant the system is to use. How much do users like it? Workplace documents, including websites, are often reviewed to make sure they are usable. And usability testing can occur during a product's development, product design, or after a product has been put into use. In your textbook, usability testing is included in the review phase of the problem-solving approach. More companies are recognizing the value of user-centered design. It's a process that asks, what does the user want at every stage of product development? And some companies take a team approach to user-centered design, which includes members of the team conducting usability testing. Other companies adopt a user-centered design process, but don't use a team approach. Instead, they go to usability centers at universities or private research firms, and they'll hire them to test their products. And then typically companies are using this latter approach will invite interested developers to sit in as observers during the testing. And when this isn't possible, most research firms and university usability labs use video and audio to report their findings and communicate the results of the testing from the users. And in other cases, companies hire a usability consulting firm to conduct the tests and deliver the results. Some companies with executive viewing rooms provide a way for visitors to come to their company and to have professionals minister the usability testing with them, and that would allow the developers to be right there behind a one-way mirror observing what was happening. Other ways are actually testing in the field, and so you may ask individuals at their work environment or home environment to actually test a product like a set of instructions or a website as they would use it and ask for their feedback about their experience. We're really going to focus a lot on the user-centered design because this is one of the most popular testing methods used in usability testing. And the first thing you need to do is define your user profile. And you need to select enough users for the size of the project. And Jacob Nielsen is referred to as the guru of web page usability by New York Times, by professionals in the industry, and Newsweek and other credible news sources. He has demonstrated that you need to test with at least 15 users to discover all of the usability problems in the design of a website, and that the ultimate user experience is improved much more by 3 tests with 5 users than by a single test with 15 users. One reason for this strategy is to better distribute your budget instead of blowing everything on a single elaborate study. You also want to run multiple tests because the real goal of usability is to improve the design and not just to document its weaknesses. So after the first study with 5 users has found about 85% of the usability problems, you'll want to fix these problems in a redesign. And after creating the new design, you test again. And since nobody can design the perfect user interface, there's no guarantee that the new design does not, in fact, fix the problems. And a second test will discover whether the fixes worked or whether they didn't. And also, in introducing a new design, there's always the risk of introducing a new usability problem. Also, the second test of 5 users will discover most of the remaining 15% of the original usability problems that were not found in the first test. And finally, the second test will be third test will be able to probe deeper into the usability of the fundamental structure of the site, assessing issues like the information architecture, the task flows, the needs of the users, and making sure that all of the services available and all of the information available, whether it's on a document or website, can truly solve a user's problems and meet their needs. And these are really important issues that are often not considered in the initial studies, where the users are just stumped by surface level usability problems that prevent them from really digging into the site. You also need to identify different subgroups of users based on their frequency and expertise. So for example, with the Utah State University Library's website, you might want to do usability testing with students and break that apart for undergraduates and graduate students and then faculty. And so you would have 3 subgroups, and with each subgroup you would need to do 3 tests. So you would have 15 people in each of those groups conduct and participate in usability testing in order to determine the potential errors those users would have with accomplishing their tasks. You also have to think about the user's experience with the product or document, what stress they're under, what their attitude is toward that document, product, or company, and what are their motivations for participating in this kind of study. Then I want you to establish the goals of the test. You need to clearly establish what goals you have to see that the users can really satisfy the issue that's at stake. You need to understand the user's needs of that product or document, what their desires are, what their preferences are, and then make sure you have concrete ways to measure the test results. That way you can report back to the creator of a document or website what problems the users encountered and how to solve those problems. Before you can conduct a test, you need to create several tasks that the users can accomplish without suggesting how they can do so. You also need to write a test facilitator script that you read to the user that introduces the test and the role that the facilitator has, what the observers have, and how they are evaluating the individual, as well as the role of the user. And then after all of the tasks have been completed, you ask the users to complete a post-test questionnaire. And that's just to collect some neutral feedback about their experiences in using the product. Now, there are a few ways that you need to analyze the findings, and so I'm going to walk through a few of those ways. With measuring efficiency, you need to count the number of mouse clicks made while a user completes a task. And then you have to note if a user is unable to complete a task. So before you do this, time how long it takes to complete the task, and then watch the user. And then you'll time it and see if that user can complete that task within that time period. It's important that if you have more than one observer, that both of you are using the exact same time to make that determination. When you do error rate, you're going to count the number of deviations from a specific path that will lead to the completion of a task. So as the facilitator and observer, you're going to do this usability test, and you're going to track all the ways that it's possible to complete the task. And then you're going to watch the video and count how many times it took the user to do it and what path the user made in completing the task. You have to know if they backtracked or had to restart the task or just failed in completing the task. Then for learnability, you're just simply observing how quickly users can understand the navigational layout of a website and perform similar actions throughout the testing. So you're going to look at how long it takes them to start doing tasks that are similar or that use similar features of the website. You're also going to look for their language and what they say about the experience. If they say, well, usually on a website, I would go here to find this information, that can indicate learnability. There's a test. It's called the Systems Usability Scale Survey. It's been used in a number of usability studies. It's considered the most popular way of measuring satisfaction. And it's a scale that asks you a series of questions about your experience, and then the researchers, the observers and facilitator will calculate the score for your system usability scale. I'm not going to go into a lot of details about this because in the professional work world, it's not used as often. What's more common is just asking a series of open-ended questions. And so in a post-test survey, you will give it to the user and ask them to answer a series of questions, usually asking about their overall impressions of the product and what they liked, what they didn't like, what problems they encountered, what they thought were causes of the problem, ways that they thought they could fix the problem. You can also ask about the layout of the website and ways to improve it, or just in general the content. Did it provide the information needed to be able to answer the user's questions and to solve their need? Now, after you've done the analysis, you have to think about how you want to report the results back to your company or to a client and to make those recommendations for them. So identify your audience. Who is going to really read or listen to your study, to your results and your recommendations? And then choose a format that's going to fit that audience. Sometimes you can do a written report that can be given to the CEOs and to IT that provides a lot more details and examples of the quotes and things that they've said. But it's really powerful to use a PowerPoint presentation, because what you want to do is actually capture the video showing those individuals having difficulties with the problems, because a visual is worth 1,000 words, and it's proof that there's something wrong that could be potentially improved. And so a lot of the usability professionals will use a PowerPoint presentation that presents direct quotes from the users as well as videos about their experiences, and shows directly, having them use the product and talk about it as they are working through it. You really need to write in a clear style that's concise. It's also important to include charts or diagrams that would show the results of the tests, and then include actual voices and words of the participants in your report. We also need to think about a few of the ethical considerations when you're doing usability testing. It's really important that before users or participants can conduct a usability test, that they understand the test process. So the facilitator really has to follow that test facilitator guide and read it word for word to the user. And then you need to create unbiased questionnaires. You don't want to have loaded questions that lead a user to a specific answer that you or the client or your company wants to hear or see. You need to make sure that they're open-ended questions that allow the users to freely answer about their experiences and to be able to provide recommendations and explanations about the problems they've experienced. You do not want to make them feel that they've gone through the process, but then that you don't really care about what they're saying because you're not giving them a chance to think independently and providing their thoughts. Don't guide them a certain way. And then occasionally, in the workplace, we need to use consent forms or anonymous disclosure forms. When a company is developing prototypes or new products, they might have an anonymous disclosure form that would prevent the user from discussing the product and the testing procedures. And that's just because the product's not ready for the public's use and they don't want to spoil anything for their announcement and product launch.